Hello everyone and welcome to the 4th devlog of Paramythic, my first indie game in UE5. In today's devlog I'm gonna show you some of the magical abilities I've implemented into the game. As you know, Paramythic has many fantasy elements such as magical spells and elemental abilities, so let's hop into the engine and let me show you what I've done. Alright, this is a test level I made to showcase the abilities. When an ability gets activated, it consumes mana. If there isn't enough mana for the ability to get activated, it doesn't. The mana logic is made with cost gameplay effects necessary to commit the gameplay abilities. I will make a separate video explaining how the gameplay ability system works and when it's used. So let's take the abilities one by one and see what they do. The first one is the ice hit. What it does is it performs a trace from the camera to a variable distance from the player, and it spawns an ice crystal that freezes temporarily all of the enemies in a predefined radius. After a certain amount of time, the enemies unfreeze and go back to normal. The crystals are a Niagara particle system with a model I created in Blender. I also made a material that swaps with the character default one to have a more convincing effect. There's not much else to show you about the ice crystal ability, so let's move on to the next one. Next up we have the projectile ability. This is pretty straightforward. You just shoot a projectile with a Niagara system attached to it that holds a gameplay effect payload sent to whatever it collides with. In the animation blueprint I made a new overlay state for the aiming abilities. There are many different elemental variations of it that causes different effects to the enemy. For example, fire projectile deals more fire damage. The next ability is one of my favorites and one of the more challenging to make. It is the meteor strike. As you can see, I'm aiming to the strike location, and when I press the attack button, the meteor gets spawned. It deals damage to a predefined radius and spawns a Niagara particle system effect I made. I first made a gameplay ability World Radical with a circular indicator I made using a monthly free asset from the marketplace. Then I made the main ability where it spawns a radical and waits for activation input. If the player stops aiming, the ability gets cancelled. Else, if he has enough mana, the meteor blueprint gets spawned. The meteor BP isn't more than a mesh with an animation that when it collides with the floor, it spawns a Niagara particle system and does a sphere trace to locate the enemies and add an impulse force to them. Next we have the canon ability. It also has the same elemental variations as the projectile one, and what it does is that it spawns a particle system I bought from the marketplace, and when it collides with the enemy it deals damage and impulse force. The animation will be changed, but I stumbled upon a bug that when I import my animation from Mixamo, the bones are rotated for a very weird reason. Next to the list is the airstrike, where many ribbons get spawned above the player and cause damage to their impact location in a sphere radius around them. I made the particle to run on CPU, but because I spawn a relatively large amount of particles, I might convert it to run on the GPU. I will also add elemental variations like the previous one. Last but not least, we have the tornado ability. As you can see, it's not yet finished. I will change the tornado particle system and the logic of how it follows the enemy. Now it just follows the enemy wherever he goes and deals him damage when it collides with him. What I will do is to make an SLRP function to make it look more fluid. So these are the abilities I made at the time of this recording. I also made a quick select system to help me change between them during the gameplay. It is not finished yet, but the foundation is there. These boxes contain a certain static mesh based on the ability they represent, defined in the data asset. The top ones are the targeting ones, the left are the stationary ones, and on the right we have the elements. Before I end the video, I want to show you a consumable gameplay ability I made that can be used in many different cases. It slows down the movement speed and plays an animation in which I have added a notify that triggers a material change on the skeletal mesh of the player. That's it for today guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the bell notification icon to get notified for a new video when it releases. Until next time, see ya!